I want you to imagine a situation that is often shared amongst parents everywhere. Your child comes home from school and you ask them, "How was school?" And to your surprise, they do not want to talk to you. You get the, "Oh, it was fine," or a shrug. Now, why is this the case? Why don't they understand your attempt to connect as a parent? Let's answer those questions together. Welcome to Simple Therapist. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like or comment a topic that you'd like to see covered next. Now, a lot of the material that I will be referencing will derive from Dr. Norka T. Malberg, a psychotherapist, professor, researcher, and contributor to a series of educational publications and much more. I will also be referencing tools and concepts that derive from the people over at Yale Child Center. And with all of that said, let's jump right into it. Now first, let's go over the concept of mentalizing. Now, Dr. Malberg did this presentation to my agency titled Mentalization-Based Treatment for Children / Autism 101. But this applies to all children, to be clear. Neurotypical, neurodivergent, doesn't necessarily matter. Dr. Malberg put it beautifully. Mentalizing is to observe ourselves from the outside and imagine the other from the inside. Mentalizing requires an imaginative capacity and an interpretive ability. The imaginative portion requires the skill of thinking about the internal states of others and how they influence those internal states. So if your child ignores your question as to how school was or says fine and they appear pretty disinterested, the ability to think, "Oh, this question is more challenging for them to answer than I thought. I wonder if school is an area that is disinteresting altogether, or perhaps something is going on. I wonder if they just need more time to decompress because after all, they just walked through the door and probably need a minute to transition and breathe." These are the right questions. These questions promote curiosity. We then have the interpretive ability, meaning there's more that meets the eye within the behavior of ourselves and others. And of course, this makes sense, right? What is someone trying to communicate with a particular action? So if you, as the parent, ask your child, "How was school today?" and they say it was fine and put their headphones back on, are they trying to piss you off? Are they trying to signal the desire of wanting more time to themselves, given the fact that they could not get that while at school? These are all questions to seriously consider. A question that a parent may ask is the following: "I have to do all the extra steps in order to appease my child, but they don't do the same for me? How is that fair?" And that's an understandable question, and Dr. Malberg indirectly addresses the problem with this in her spotlight video from the American Psychological Association.
So mentalization, you see, is quite a complex social cognitive capacity that is developed throughout our lifetime and that it gets impinged upon by stress and dysregulation, emotional dysregulation.
Children at their developmental stage lack the emotional regulation skills that you and I have. Physiologically, the amygdala, or the feelings section of the brain, becomes overwhelmed very easily, which may explain the type of answers you may be getting as a parent when you ask, "What's wrong?" They have a hard time articulating their emotions. Secondly,
by all the years of research that we have in infant research and how it had helped us understand the center importance of the quality of the attachment relationship and how it determines how individuals respond to each other and also how they manage their emotional regulation using their own resources, we're also co-regulating with another person.
Co-regulating in this case refers to the child's ability to go from 10 to 1 through the aid of another support, that being the parent, you. Of course, the child needs the necessary self-regulating coping skills so that they can regulate themselves and calm down by themselves. But that is developed and strengthened with time, with therapy, with practice. The child depends upon their caregiver to aid in that process. And the way that may look depends on the circumstance, the child's presentation, the dynamic, etc. This is why your approach as the parent is imperative. What I've seen as a practitioner is parents instantly go on the attack when they don't receive the love or response that they want after trying to engage with their child. The parent will actually look at me and go, "You see what I mean? This happens every day." Here are some quick tips, and then we can get into some of the literature. Practice and apply the mentalization model. It's associated with positive outcomes such as regulation skills during stress for the child, as well as faster recovery times from the initial point of dysregulation. Read those body cues, as that nonverbal communication is always present. For example, if they're on the couch, shelled off, towering over them translates to combative, confrontation mode. Whereas if you sit on the same couch and watch the TV show with them, you send a different message. Transition times are real, especially with neurodivergent children. They need the time to assimilate back into the home. to decompress. Give them that time. Now, another factor to keep in mind may not be the child themselves and what they carry, but what you carry, the parent. When your child does not want to interact with you, parents will often internalize these behaviors, but in a way that can be a bit scary at times. Your child doesn't understand the sacrifice that you've done for them and how simple of a request you are asking of them. This line of thinking begins a snowball effect. These thoughts manifest into they ignore me to get back at me or try to make me feel miserable. They know how to poke my buttons, or they just don't trust me. Now, to be clear, whether or not these claims are true, because it may be in your case, I don't know. This thought process limits your capacity to mentalize, to see the other side, to see how behaviors manifest in different ways, to see how certain thought processes manifest in different ways. There is no sense of curiosity as to what your child is thinking, your child's experience, and what may be attributing to their behaviors outside of you. So please be careful with that line of thinking. When we look at the model of parenting stress, we instantly notice that there's a multi-dimensional approach to parental stress. We have the child factors, which include their ability to adapt, accept, their demandingness, and mood. We have the parent factors, which include their own depression, attachment issues, sense of competence as a parent. Then we have situational factors, social support or isolation, role restriction, and spousal relationships, all of which contribute to the parenting stress that you may be feeling. What the parent at times fails to realize is that they have an influence on all three boxes. A simple but inaccurate approach to reading this model would be, I go to therapy, my depressive symptoms have been reduced throughout the past few years, I don't have attachment issues, I've restored my relationship with my parents, I know I'm doing right, everyone else needs to step up. A more nuanced approach would be truly reflecting, ideally with a therapist who isn't confirming these biases, upon how the parent is contributing or could positively impact the other factors. Now, let's take a look at this systematic review, which means it's a pretty high standard as far as evidence is concerned, and it's titled Parent, Child, and Situational Factors Associated with Parenting Stress, a systematic review. Now, while reading these findings, I want you to think of the word agency or control. Keep those words in your mind. The evidence that was found with respect to situational factors was associations between higher amount of social support, higher educational level, and lower levels of parenting stress. When you find a parent who blames the circumstances of their relationship with their child on the child, and you begin to explore other domains of their life, like how do your friends or family treat you? Or what about your children who are adults now? How's that relationship? You may get an answer to the effect of, oh, they just completely cut me off after everything I did for them, or I have friends, but they don't know what they're talking about. These deflections make it convenient to avoid the agency piece of keeping social support that holds you accountable. And I suppose the education aspect makes sense. The more education, the more knowledge attainment, ability to balance multiple tasks, better job potentiality, all those things. Regarding factors related to marital/paternal relationship, there was some evidence of an association between higher intimacy with a partner, higher co-parenting alliance, lower paternal romantic avoidance, and lower parenting stress. So while it may be the case that child factors exist, some parents glance over these pertinent details that they have agency over. Let's keep reading. Then we look at lower income, lower family SES, higher family financial pressure, all of which are associated with parenting stress. Let's look at the parental factors. Quote, significant association between higher maternal depression and more parenting stress. Father's perception of their emotional lability, father's history of psychological diagnosis, and more parenting stress. Now, to put it in layman terms, emotional lability just means like fluctuations in emotion. I don't know if this means that the father perceives the child's actions as fluctuating and uncontrollable. It will manifest into stress. But the more interesting thing is the father's history of psychological diagnoses. To what extent is their own pathology meshing with the child's difficulties or own diagnosis? Is it a positive feedback loop of never-ending disorder and chaos? Does the father's diagnosis influence their perception of emotional lability from the child? From the parents that I've worked with, they have a higher proclivity to engage down this short order view of thinking, whether that's being overwhelmed at work, legal or financial troubles, disorders of their own. And these problems influence their mental capacity to better understand their child. Another way to translate these findings is, in order to restore your relationship and see sustainability, you need to get other parts of your life in order. Now, this may seem obvious, but people are left with the impression that they are not impacting the equation at all. It's the child being difficult. In solitude, two things can exist at the same time. Exhaustion and stress can attribute to this misleading analysis that parents often make. Hopefully this sheds a light on the blind spots that may be present. If you disagree with my analysis or conclusions from the findings that I provided in this video, feel free to let me know in the comments. Thank you all for listening, and I appreciate it.